We are continuously doing it on the basis of Ambedkarism. So that is the main crux as far as the organizational aspect.
And what does Ambedkarism mean to a political party? What does it commit you to?
As far as you see Ambedkarism is concerned, we say that in Ambedkarism there is an ideology, it's a philosophy, it's a policy, it's a process, it's a path. And the people who walk on this become Ambedkarites, that means personalities. Okay. Again I would repeat, ideology, philosophy, policy, process, path and personalities. If I define Ambedkarism, I say it is a new revolutionary ideology of humanity. If I can put it in formulas, I can say Ambedkarism is equal to equality plus liberty plus fraternity plus justice plus Dhamma is equal to Ambedkarism. Second, Ambedkarism is equal to fundamental rights and human rights plus humanism plus international order of justice is equal to Ambedkarism. Ambedkarism is equal to humanism is equal to Dhamma. Okay, these are some of the formulations of Ambedkarism. So it's an ideology, philosophy and policy. And it's a movement for the reconstruction of world.
Okay, wonderful. One of the things that I really am excited about in Ambedkar is, in the 50s he tussles with Marxism, of course, and he says Marxism might get you equality and liberty, but not fraternity, fellow feeling.
Yeah.
So I wonder what your thoughts are. How do you push a strenuous agenda, but not alienate your opponents?
So you see, Baba was very clear as far as Marxism is concerned. Though you see the end of Marxism and Buddhism may be one of the same, to remove the sufferings from the world. But the way you see that Marxism takes about a violent revolution, about the class conflict and class revolution, that was not the philosophy of Baba Ambedkar. He wanted to bring revolution in a bloodless manner. And you see, as far as Marxism is concerned, it speaks only about stomach. But Ambedkarism is also about stomach and nose and mind. That is what we say. That the economic man in Marxism, it's an incomplete man. Man does not live by bread alone. He also has a mind. So Baba Sahib was much concerned about the bread as well as the mind. That is the stomach as well as the mind. And the dignity, that is the nose.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what kind of tactics might you use to get your enemy on board? This is the challenge, right? How do you win your enemy over through love?
We have classified some of our organizations which are having particular ideologies, like the communists and the Hindutva-vadis, and of course the centrists, that is the Congress people also. So we do not have any sort of alliance or any sort of affinity with them.
Yes.
We fight it out on the basis of Ambedkarism with them, on the basis of policies and on the basis of movement. We do not align with them anyway.
Okay.
And we are not concerned about whether they come on our path or not. But as far as the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes are concerned, the backward classes are concerned, the minorities are concerned, the women are concerned. So we work on these people for building up the base of the Ambedkar movement. Because we have 1 billion Bahujans in India today.
Yes. See, I think that's the real challenge Dewey and Ambedkar face. Is how do you live with people that disagree with you, right?
Because we are having a democracy in India, a constitutional democracy. So now we are having much freedom and much rights also. Earlier, we were not allowed to speak due to the law of Manu. But now we are having fundamental rights and many guarantees as guaranteed by the constitution framed by Baba Ambedkar. So now there is a discourse in India. So no one can challenge us and can disallow us from speaking and working. So we live with them by challenging on discourse, on the basis of discourse of Ambedkarism. That is our methodology.
Okay, yes. What do you know about his time with Dewey?
Yeah.
I'm always interested to see everyone has a different piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
His time in Columbia.
Yeah. No, Baba Sahib had great regards for John Dewey, and he was his professor along with Golden Weissman and James Shortwell and James Harvey Robinson. So these were the professors there in Columbia.
Yeah.
But he was most enamored and impressed by Dewey. And he himself said that I owe so much of my intellectual life to Dewey. I feel some of the things that attracted Dr. Ambedkar as far as Dewey is concerned. Because when Baba Sahib went from India to US, he saw the caste and untouchability and the medieval order or the ancient order of caste and untouchability. That is what he said, it is a dead wood.
Yes.
Okay, but how to transform this? So optimism, of course, Baba Sahib was attracted to. One point that he was attracted to as far as Dewey's philosophy is concerned is optimism. But I feel along with optimism, he was attracted towards pragmatism. So optimism and pragmatism, reason and experience. These four things were the fundamental things, and social change and the development of human being. These are the 6 things of Dewey's philosophy which attracted the most as far as Baba Sahib Ambedkar is concerned in Colombia.
And, you know, I've looked a little bit into the historical relationship between Ambedkar and his movement and communism. I don't know, what do you think about that? I mean, where is it at now? Or the Communist Party of India any part of the Ambedkar movement? Or?
No, communists, you see, of late, you see, they are agreeing in a way or other that caste is also the problem in India.
Okay.
Yeah, you see till Nambodri Prad and you see this, of late I feel a decade before they were not agreeing that caste is the central problem of India.
Yes.
They were saying that only class is the problem. But you see, class was there in Europe, not in India. You see, Indian society is caste ridden. Or rather, if I can say that Baba Sahib said caste class theory. That is what he said, that Trivarnikas form one class and the Shudras and the Varna Bahayas. The Shudras means students of the backward classes, OBCs. Varna Bahayas means scheduled caste, scheduled tribes and the denotified and nomadic tribes. And those who converted from these, those are the minorities. So they form a social class. That is what Baba Sahib said, servile classes. So Baba Sahib also put a caste class theory. But the communists, they were not agreeing on this. They were more enamored with the class theory of Europe. But of late, due to the Ambedkarite movement, they are agreeing that caste is also a problem. And in their own way, they are trying to address this problem. But that does not bring, you see, the communist parties on the board of the Ambedkarite people. Because till they agree to the annihilation of caste in India, there can be no, you see, uniformity. There can be no alliance with the communist parties in India.
Okay. And I know in the 1936 essay, Annihilation of Caste, Ambedkar took a lot of heat for saying you need to get rid of the Shastras to get equality. What's the current stance of the Ambedkarite Buddhists? Can you live with Hindus being Hindus, or you have to get rid of them?
No, not at all. You see, as far as the Ambedkarite Buddhists are concerned, they're very much particular about this. That you see, the conversion is required here in India. If at all, you see, want to make the society more, you see, egalitarian and more compassionate and more humanitarian, then you cannot have Hinduism and democracy together. You see, because Hinduism, it discriminates the people in society and in institutions. Though you see the state cannot discriminate, but there is also systemic discrimination in India by the state. But as far as the Hindu society is concerned, everywhere in the villages and the cities and the institutions, there is a direct and indirect discrimination. There is a systemic discrimination. So therefore, conversion is must in India.
Okay, so you're taking a pretty hard stance there, right? That you don't have democracy till you get rid of Hinduism as a religion.
No, Hinduism, Baba Sahib has said that it's a misnomer to call Hinduism a religion.
Okay.
It's not a religion at all. That is what Baba Sahib Ambedkar said. His disagreement with Hinduism was one of that principles. He wanted a religion of principles, not a religion of rules.
Yes.
Hinduism is a religion of rules.
Yes.
Buddhism is a religion of principles. And here you see the deviant ideas of you see inquiry and reason.
Yes.
That comes into fray as far as you see Dewey and Baba Sahib Ambedkar are concerned.
Yes. You ever know if he read Dewey's A Common Faith? You know, Dewey wrote a book on religion in the 1930s.
Yeah.
I've never found any evidence. Obviously, he owned it or read it or referred to it. And I don't know, have you found anything?
No, I feel 15 odd you see titles, just like you see democracy and education, reconstruction of philosophy and reconstruction of democratic life, and how we think, and inquiry and ethics, along with Tufts, I feel ethics. One common work with Dewey and Tufts was their ethics.
Yes.
So these books you see you will be able to find in the Siddharth Library in Mumbai.
Yes, I've been there. One thing that you might be able to, I don't know, probably no one can answer this, but there's a copy that Ambedkar owned and signed on ethics. This is a 1908 book from Dewey and Tufts.
Yeah.
And at the top he puts K.A. Kaluska.
Yeah.
So he was, the assumption is he was gifted this book from Kaluska.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea when that happened? Was that before Columbia or after Columbia?
No, it's certainly after Columbia.
Certainly after.
After Columbia, not before Columbia.
Now, Kaluskar gave him the life of the Buddha, right? Before Columbia.
Yeah. That was before Columbia, but as far as, because you see, Dewey was not known in India before, you see, 1916. It's only when Babasaheb Ambedkar came back here from Columbia
Yes.
that India got acquainted with Dewey. We do not find any references of Dewey being referred here in India before 1916.
Yes. Okay, that's good. That's something to go on because I always have trouble figuring out when I should date
Yeah,
that.
because I can tell you much certainly because I've authored, you see, chronology on Dr. Ambedkar and have recorded 2,500 dates and entries. I'll be giving that, you see, volume to you.
Okay,
So I'm
wonderful.
very much concerned about this, that it is post 1916, not before.
Yes, okay, yeah. And I've never found a reference to Dewey
Yeah.
before that. I have found William James and Charles
Yeah.
Pierce, but not,
Yeah.
so I think
Yeah.
Ambedkar brings Dewey into the
Yeah,
Indian
in
equation.
Indian context. Yeah.
Yes. Wonderful. Do you know any other, I know we were talking, I was talking to my friends in the car ride. I went to Siddhartha and looked at all his books. Symbiosis has some of
Yeah.
Ambedkar's books.
Yeah.
You know any other locations that have some of
You
these?
can find some of them in, you see, Delhi with Nanak Chand Radhu's, you see, personal libraries.
Okay, where's this?
But Delhi, Nanak Chand Radhu is personal assistant.
Okay.
But now he's no more.
Oh yes, yes.
So his children's they are having, you see, some of the books, some of the possessions.
Okay.
So that is one source you can search for. The second search you can do in Mumbai with Mr. Shinde.
Okay.
Mr. Shinde.
And I've heard Raj Graha might have some.
No, Rajguru, almost all the books have been transferred, I feel, to the Siddharth College Library.
Okay.
Whatever books were there in Rajguru, those have been transferred to Siddharth College Library. But some of the rare, you see, books signed by Dr. Ambedkar can be in the possession of Mr. Shinde and Nanak Chand Radhu's family
Okay, and that they're in Mumbai.
in Delhi.
In
Nanak Chand
Delhi.
Radhu.
Okay. So.
Mr. Shinde in Mumbai.
Okay. We want to give me another reason for another trip to India.
Yeah.
I wish they put all of Ambedkar's materials in one place.
Yeah.
So, no, this is very helpful. I don't know, who else do you think would be a major influence on him from the West? You know, from Europe, where he read? You know, in Siddhartha he had 2 copies of John Stuart Mill's On Liberty, but they were unmarked. And
Yeah.
we never could figure out why he had 2 copies of that.
You see, Babasaheb had a lot of influence from many people.
Yes.
Dewey was one of them, and of course, J.S. Mill was also there. As far as philosophy is concerned, I am saying.
Yes.
And then Lasky was there, Burke was there.
Yes.
So these 4 people he often refers. Then there was also a reference by Voltaire, I feel. The French Revolution also had some influence on Dr. Ambedkar as far as the transformation of the institutions are concerned towards democracy on the basis of equality, liberty and fraternity.
Yes.
So because he is often found, you see, quoting Voltaire also sometimes, you see. So I feel 4 or 5 major influences were there. Dewey was a major influence. Then J.S. Mill was there, Lasky was there, Burke was there, and Voltaire was there. I feel these are the 6 major influences on Dr. Ambedkar. And as far as his theoretization are concerned, I feel Seligman was there and Kennan was there. As far as economic theory is concerned. So these were the influences. Bertrand Russell also you can, up to a certain limit, Bertrand Russell also.
Yes, one of the first
State construction officer. Right?
Yes, and he supposedly he met, according to some of the chronology,
Yeah.
Russell in England.
Yeah.
I don't know, did you ever hear any details of what they talked about?
Yeah.
Some of this stuff, I wish people would have recorded it. Yeah. What was I going to say? You know, one interesting thing that I'm working out, I have no answers to some of these questions, but, you know, in Annihilation of Caste and later on in other texts,
Yeah.
he has this weird technique, sometimes he'll cite Dewey, quote Dewey, say my Professor Dewey said, quote.
Yeah.
But sometimes he'll just speak Dewey's words, change them a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, eliminate school and talk about religion.
Yeah.
But the rest of that paragraph is Dewey's words. You know why he'd do that? Why would he not cite Dewey as a source of this wisdom here? You know, what function does that play? He's got to be gaining something from it.
No, Dewey, you see, is cited in some of his personal, you see, letters.
Yes.
And in his personal, you see, experiences with the colleagues.
Yes.
So you can find, you see, at least 8 to 10 references where he cited Dewey.
Yes.
But not while theoretizing.
Yes.
And here is what we have to understand. That Baba Sahib took the philosophy of pragmatism from Dewey. But he took the philosophy from Buddha also.
Yes.
We have to understand this thing. So in the modern context, he took pragmatism from Dewey, but he took much more from Buddha. And I of course say that you see, as far as Ambedkarism is concerned, it is about the West and East and something more.
Yes.
So from the West, Dewey, and Lasky and Berkey and Voltaire, and from East, Buddha, and an amalgamation of this, his own invention, that is what I say Ambedkarism.
Yes, yes.
And therefore we find that you see, though he has quoted Dewey, ab verbatim some of the statements as they are, from the books, various books, particularly Democracy and Education, but he does not, you see, owes that particular philosophy from Dewey itself, because he has expanded that philosophy in his own context, from his understanding of the Indian reality and the world reality and Buddhism.
Yeah.
Therefore, there is a de-link between what he has taken from Dewey and what he has reconstructed in the philosophy.
But I'm thinking a lot of his echoes, I call them echoes, of Dewey come in 1919 in Southborough Testimony, and then 1936
Yeah, of
in
course.
Annihilation, where both of those he doesn't promote Buddhism.
Even philosophy of Hinduism.
Yes.
Even philosophy of Hinduism.
Yes, but those other two don't have Buddhism.
Yeah, but you see, if you see Babasaheb Ambedkar, you see he studied Buddhism from Bonn University.
Yes, yes.
That was from somewhere in 1923. So he was well versed with Buddhism in 1923 also,
Yes.
when he was in Germany for 6 months. So he studied Buddhism there also. So, and if you see that when he came back from, you see, England, he were in India, you will find that some of the preliminary, you see, aspects he started quoting about Buddhism. So he was, it is not that Babasaheb Ambedkar got, you see, acquainted with Buddhism only in this later part of the life.
Yes.
It's much more in the early part of the life.
Oh yes, yes. You know, what's interesting though, in Annihilation of Caste, when he
Yeah.
said liberty, equality, and fraternity might be found in the Upanishads.
Yeah.
He doesn't suggest in the Buddha. He suggests, so it seems like he's not quite ready to give up on Hinduism at that point, even though his whole text was arguing
No,
against the
but then
Shastras.
if you immediately come to, you see, the Mahar conference.
Yes,
The Mahar conference, which was held the very same year.
yes,
Okay, in 1935 in Evla. Evla, when he said that I
Yes.
was born as a Hindu, but I will not die as a Hindu.
yes,
Then you will see that, you see, the last sentence says, Atta Deepa Bhava, enlighten thyself.
yes.
So he quoted Buddha indirectly.
Okay,
He started quoting Buddha indirectly. Because India at that point of time was not ready for Buddha.
okay,
But he started quoting Buddha indirectly.
okay.
Okay. So some places you'll find that he is not quoting Buddha. At some points you will see that he is quoting Buddha in an indirect way.
Yes.
So you will find particularly he started quoting Buddha from 1935 onwards.
Okay. Now there's two
Much
hypotheses.
before Annihilation of
There's
Caste.
two hypotheses, right? One that he was holding back, but he knew in his heart he wanted to convert, or he was still undecided. What do you think it was in 1935?
1935, of course there was a conviction that conversion is necessary to abolish the religious discrimination of Hinduism. There is no other way out. We cannot reform Hinduism. We have to leave Hinduism. That was a conviction that came in 1935 before an annihilation of caste. And therefore he speaks about applying a dynamite to the Shastras.
Yes.
That dynamite is about killing the philosophy and the religion and order of Hinduism. Yeah.
Yes. But do you think in his mind what replaced the blown up structure was going to be Buddhism? I mean, some of the scholars I read say he did
Almost so,
decide.
because if you see the Italian monk in 1936,
Yes.
after this conversion, you see declaration of Babasaheb Ambedkar.
Yes.
One Italian Buddhist monk came to convince Dr. Ambedkar. So the conversations with the Italian monk and with some of the localites like Medharthi from Uttar Pradesh, they very well give you a clue that in 1936 itself, when he experimented in the preliminary stages with Sikhism,
Yes.
and he then did not give a thought of embracing Sikhism at all. At that point of time, he was very much clear that Buddhism is the way out.
Yes. Yeah, I know there are hints in his house name and all this stuff, but it's
Yes, Rajguru and all those things. So all are contemporary with that.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So it's a fascinating story.
Yeah. When he came back from roundtable conferences, after that he kept his name Rajguru.
Okay. Yes. Now you mentioned he takes a lot from Buddhism.
Yeah.
The Buddhists, at least the reviews I read, right after Buddha and Dhamma came out, hated his reading of Buddhism. I mean, what do you think accounts for how some traditionalist Buddhists, reacted?
No, his perception of Buddhism is not the way that the traditional Buddhism is. That is what sometimes we say it is an Avyan.
Yes.
He says, he himself said that it is a new Dhamma. In Buddha's Dhamma he says that Buddha gave the new Dhamma. So Buddhism, what Baba Sahib Ambedkar you see kept, it's much more, I will say, it is taken from, of course you see, from the Tipitikas, from the Pali sources, but it has a philosophical, you see, relation with the West.
Yes.
That is what I can understand.
Yes.
Because he wanted to make Buddhism a modern religion, a new religion for a new world. That is what he said.
Yes.
So it's not the traditional Buddhism that people in Sri Lanka or Burma or Thailand, they understand in the way. It's a new type of a religion for a new world.
Yes.
That is what he said, reconstruction of the world.
Yes. Buddha
He
becomes.
used Dewey's word, reconstruction of the
Yes.
world.
Yes.
Yeah.
Buddha becomes a great Deweyan Democrat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's a wonderful vision of Buddhism.
Yeah.
I don't know how are relations between Buddhists in other countries and your movement?
No, we have certain you see, relations with the Buddhists, particularly from the Asian part and the European part also. And we have very good relations with them. But still, as far as you see the working relations, if I speak in the sense of geopolitics, the Buddhist world is not one world. As the European world is one world, Islamic world is one world as far as geopolitics is concerned. Buddhist world is not one world as far as the geopolitics is concerned. I feel so someone has to work on this aspect also, that the Buddhist countries can have their say about humanity and how the world order, a just world order, in the geopolitical sense that the world is going particularly between the West and East and Islamic bloc.
Yes.
One led by China, another led by US and Europe. Of course, now there will be some policy changes after Trump has, you see, become the president of America. So, but someone has to take this initiative.
Yes. I remember Baba Sahib in one of his 1950 speech, he said the big battle is between the gospel of Buddha and the gospel of Karl Marx. What do you think the battle is today?
The battle today is not between Buddha or Karl Marx.
Yes.
The battle between today is between Buddha and, if I can say, social Darwinists,
Okay, yes.
libertarianisms, and of course the religious fundamentalism.
Yes.
It's not between Buddha or Marx.
Okay. Buddha has a lot more enemies now.
Yeah, Buddha will have to give an answer to the social Darwinists and libertarians
Yes.
and to the religious fanatics of the world.
Yes. You bring up Darwin, this jarred my mind. One of the important things, I try to think of how he's similar to Dewey, but often you think of how he differs. And one thing that I caught was Dewey often talks about Darwin, right? Darwinian science frames what Dewey does to philosophy.
Yeah.
You don't see appeals to Darwinism in Ambedkar. And one of the reasons I thought is because he's fighting a caste system that's been, hypothesized as natural.
Yeah.
So if he talks about things that are natural, people might already think this
Yeah.
impression is that. I don't know, why do you think Darwin was left out of a lot of the things in Ambedkar?
By Dr. Ambedkar. Because Darwin's, you see, this theory of evolution.
Yes.
Of course, you see, this theory of evolution was basically a law of impermanence. That law of impermanence, what Buddha said. So Baba Sahib was well versed with this law of impermanence. He said nothing is final, nothing is sanatan. Everything is subjected to change. So in Buddhism, law of impermanence is there. So I feel Darwin's theory of evolution is nothing you see new. Of course, he put in a biological context. Okay. But Baba Sahib did not agree with social Darwinism, survival of the fittest.
Yes.
That is the major disagreement. He said that society wants not the fittest but the best.
Yes.
Okay. And therefore, you see, this biological theory was much more having the danger of being appropriated for racial supremacy, survival of the fittest.
Yes.
That is what, in a way or other, Hitler and this whole Nazism, you see, worked upon. But of course, Nazism was taken from, you see, Nietzsche's philosophy, and Nietzsche was influenced by Manu.
Yes.
Okay. So therefore, Baba Sahib was not convinced with the theory of survival of the fittest. He wanted to make every human being a worthy entity for development and for fraternity and well-being of the world. So therefore, he was not influenced by, you see, the Darwin concepts. Therefore, it was left apart.
Yes, and I know a lot of people in Sanskrit in philosophy try to say Purusha's evolution.
Yeah.
They try to co-opt
Yeah.
evolution.
Yeah.
So I see it might work against them.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, sir. I don't want to take too much of your time. This has been so wonderful. I love some of these hints, and I'm going to trace down the clues card bit. I like that, the reading of it.
Yeah.
Do you know of any other manuscript remains that might be lying around? Someone has.
There are many manuscripts actually. Still 30% of the literature of Dr. Ambedkar is not published.
Okay.
And
would happen
it's
to be-
lying in various places actually. But it's very difficult to unearth. Some of the institutions are having.
Yes.
Some of the major manuscripts are having with this family of Nanak Chandra.
Okay.
And some in Europe, particularly Germany.
Okay.
Some in England also, you see the manuscripts are there. And in Germany and in you see Europe, you will find particularly England, you see some of the manuscripts are there.
Okay.
In India with the family of Nanak Chandra too.
Yes.
And then some of the manuscripts are there in Parliament itself.
Okay.
Parliament, because you see the minutes of the committees that he headed, some 20 committees he headed as while drafting the constitution. So all are not made public. So many you see, and the letter correspondences as the chairman of the drafting committee with the various provinces of India and with the countries abroad. Those are also not published. So some of the manuscripts are lying in the Parliament Library also.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. It's the collected works are a wonderful resource, but I wish all this other stuff would get out.
30% till my estimate is that 30% of the literature is yet to be published.
Okay.
30% of it is yet to be published.
Yes. Yes. Well, if you ever find people that are about to publish this, push them towards it.
No, but there is a committee here in Maharashtra which you see works on, you see all these primary sources.
Yes.
But of late you see it is becoming difficult for them also to gather all the sources and work. Because it's very arduous work, a very lengthy work. And someone has to, you see, devote their time for, you see, unearthing all these things and bringing, you see, systematically editing them. So some type of difficulties they are facing now.
Yes.
So, but many of the valuable resources are still not published. But what are the valuable resources there are in US? Can you please tell us that some of the manuscripts are in US as
I
far
have
as...
not found anything by, well, the only things I found have been some notes from Dr. Ambedkar and others, mainly his classmates. Ambedkar just took notes a couple of days, so
Yeah.
but that at least lets you verify.
Okay.
And then the other thing I found useful was at Columbia University, they have course registries of what courses were taught. So I took the transcript and came up with a list of who taught his courses and what was in the course, their description.
Okay.
So that's how I learned. He took 3 courses from Dewey. He took 2 courses from another philosophy teacher who doesn't matter much. But
Okay.
3 from Dewey.
What was the name of that teacher?
The other one was Montague, I think, or something
Okay.
like this. But it's someone I'd never heard of.
And he was an expert in this stream of philosophy.
I haven't looked him up because Ambedkar never cites him. But yeah, I should look that up. But Dewey taught 3 classes that Ambedkar's on record taking.
Okay.
None of which, by the way, are Dewey's education class.
Okay.
And you look at Siddhartha, his copy of Democracy and Education is dated in his hand 1917 in London.
Okay.
So this is intriguing to me because most times people speculate and say he learned about Dewey's view of education and democracy there.
Okay.
But mainly what he learned was political history,
Okay.
philosophy.
Okay.
So I can share some of my forthcoming articles with you. They're coming out in the Journal of Religion and some other.
Yeah, researching.
Yeah, so this is where I start to unpack this
Okay.
stuff.
So some of the manuscripts will be there in US also. Many
Yes.
very minor manuscripts are there in US also.
Yes, but I found nothing like an Ambedkar speech or an Ambedkar book. No extended manuscripts from him, like here in England. Or excuse me, here
And
in
the books that he marked or referred there in
I haven't found any of those in the U.S. Siddhartha and
It's in the records of the libraries.
no, I haven't seen it. Yeah, the only thing they had in the library, I need to go back again, but because I've heard from Eleanor Zelliott's book, she's
Yeah.
a wonderful scholar. She said there was a CV, a resume of his
Yeah.
on file there from when he got that doctorate.
Yeah.
I never found that.
Yeah.
What I found was they had a card, they have a file of famous Colombians.
Okay.
And there was an Ambedkar card, and it had reference only like 2 things, like articles from when he showed up, and I think some pins, like some promotional materials when he was there getting his honorary doctorate. But
Okay.
yeah, I was disappointed. I didn't find a hidden book by him or anything.
Okay.
So
And the Columbia University honored him now, you see.
yes, and they have a statue of him, which I was
Yeah.
finally able to get into the library and stand by.
And the 100 most, you see, eminent you see, Colombians.
Yes.
So how did they rank Dr. Ambedkar there in Colombia?
I can't remember. I think he's in that ranking, but
How did they rank? What are the criterions that they apply?
I don't know. You know, I haven't looked into their ranking. I know he's promoted on their website of famous Colombians,
Yeah.
but so that's good. I don't know.
What was
how-
the criteria? What attracted the Colombian University for?
I'm sure it's the writing of the Constitution.
Constitution
Yes,
of
of India. This is one thing I can't believe. I've searched all of Dewey's correspondence, and I never find a letter where Dewey brags about his student. My student wrote the Constitution of a small town.
What do you feel that while you see the United Nations was, you see, taking shape in 1945, and this whole UN Charter was taking place, and then General Smuts brought this whole concept of human rights there in the UN Charter, General Smuts, in the San Francisco Conference. Okay. What do you think that, what missed Dr. Ambedkar for bringing this whole philosophy and of rights, human rights in the Indian Constitution?
I think he was enamored by the sense of equality and the Enlightenment thinkers like you cited, and then also Dewey. You know, Dewey in some ways continues on with liberty, fraternity, equality. So I think that's the key to understanding him, is that he was a Democrat. You know, in the sense of he loved democracy and equality.
The democracy without rights, you see, it has not become successful anywhere in the
Oh
world.
no, yes,
And therefore, UN is also saying now that human rights, democracy, and rule of law.
yes,
That is the trinity United Nations is speaking about.
yes, yes.
So, the second aspect is that how America is enamored by Dewey now, the father of progressive education.
Oh yes.
How will you classify that American mind? It's going in which direction now? As far as the philosophy is concerned.
Yes, yeah, well, and not Trump. But yes, we'll see. I mean, there's always been in the last 50 or 60 years in the U.S. a turn towards experiential education, hands-on. Maybe not as much as Dewey wanted, but you see a lot of Montessori schools. You see even in regular schools the idea of kids have to be active. They don't just memorize for tests. So this is very Deweyan in origin. So we'll see how that plays out.
What was the last experience of Dewey when he said that now you see no reform is possible in education also without a change in the order of America?
Oh, yeah.
That is what in the last part of his life, Dewey, he was very much particular about this, that a change in the whole American society and order is required for bringing a real change in the education system in America.
Yes. And then
So how America adopted the philosophy of Dewey? As of date, America is on which part of philosophy?
yes.
Can we say it's a Deweyan pragmatism or libertarianism? That is what social Darwinism? What we can say about America now today?
My own perspective on it is that it's not Deweyan in the full sense. Because what
Yeah.
Dewey stands for is not just political change,
Yeah.
not just educational change.
Yeah.
It's a sort of mental habit, how you
Yeah.
interact with others,
Yeah.
even people you disagree with,
Yeah.
in all forms of life,
Yeah.
from family to business to national
Yeah.
elections. So the U.S., when you look at how we deal with politics, is not on that path. We have Republicans who don't understand Democrats, Democrats who villainize and don't understand Republicans. People look at their own news sources that agree with them. So I think in many ways, India has democratic problems, America has democratic problems, but you know, the one I see in the U.S. is partisanship. You know, seeking to bolster your own party at the loss of the other side. Ambedkar, right, in 1947, tells the students at Siddhartha College, in the parliament at Siddhartha College, you can't win over a majority by giving them a black eye. I don't think that's a lesson we get in America anymore. The way you win over your party, your opponents, is by beating them. But that really just creates stronger enemies tomorrow. So yes, in many ways, America needs Ambedkar and America needs Dewey more so.
How much Dr. Ambedkar is known in America now?
Unfortunately, not much. Among my academic colleagues, for instance, I give a lot of talks trying to spread the gospel of Ambedkar. You know, how he's doing wonderful things. He starts with some ideas from Dewey and starts from ideas with Buddhism, but then does something unique of his own.
Yeah.
I try to impress upon them. He's a thinker to be taken seriously. I think
But
many,
in the academic world, Dr. Ambedkar is known in US, I think.
he is known. There are people, there are
But
academics.
is the general masses, it's...
No, the general public will not know him, and many academics don't know of him.
Okay.
I'm afraid to say.
Okay.
They may know of Gandhiji, but they won't know of Ambedkar.
Okay.
So I'm trying to fix that by writing stuff on Ambedkar and showing
Okay.
how important he is.
Okay.
I think some that know him will say he's a politician who wrote a constitution, and that's underselling what Baba
yeah.
Sahib was about.
Yeah, that's a big misnomer actually.
Yes, so I mean, some of our role is political and intellectual like you do. Some of it's just purely
Yeah.
writing books and intellectual like I. But I think we're all invested in making.
He's a philosopher of the world actually, the new world. That is what he said, 6 things. That is the discourse of my intellectual biography.
Yes.
He said, new social order, new India. Then reorganization of India, reconstruction of world. Then for the world he said, democracy, democratic world order. New world order. Then the modern world and new world.
Yes.
That is what Baba Sahib Ambedkar's philosophy deals with.
Yes.
From India to world. So it's a misnomer to understand him is only as a politician or only as a jurist. He was much more than that. Actually, he's a philosopher of the world. And the West must try to look Baba Sahib Ambedkar from that perspective. That today Marx is not the philosopher. Today Baba Sahib Ambedkar is the philosopher of the world.
Yes.
Because he spoke so much about the new world, modern world, and the new world order and the democratic world order. Much before you see democracy was on its rise in the world. And much more before you see this whole concept of a new social order and new world took place in the world. So I feel he was a great philosopher and a great revolutionary also,
Yes.
Baba Sahib Ambedkar.
Yes.
And we have to see him from that perspective. That would be much better, right?
Yes. Here's a question that I don't think we can answer.
Yeah.
But Dewey went to China in 1919 to 1921,
Yeah.
where one of his students was. Husserl
Yeah.
was a student right after Ambedkar left Columbia. Husserl went to Columbia.
Yeah.
And so Husserl and his followers arranged lectures for Dewey. Dewey was a superstar. And then after Dewey left, Husserl pushed the Deweyan agenda. Obviously, the communists won. Mao was a note taker during one of Dewey's talks. So he heard Dewey. So Dewey lost.
Yeah.
The communists put a propaganda campaign out. So one question in my mind is, why did Deweyan views of democracy in some form survive in India, thrive? They had formed the constitution in some ways,
Yeah.
but then lose in China. I'd be interested to hear
Because
what you...
Dewey became a movement here in
Okay.
India through Dr. Ambedkar.
Okay.
In China, it could not become a movement.
Yes.
Here you see the Ambedkarite movement took the Deweyan thought to its logical conclusion of reforming the Indian caste system by the way of constitution and democracy. And Baba Sahib Ambedkar is an embodiment for that. So Deweyan thought requires a movement. It will not survive in the world unless it is made a movement. So I feel as it happened here in India, that it became a movement and still the movement is there. I feel America also requires a movement. The West also requires a movement. If Deweyan philosophy has to become a reality in the world.
Yes. Yes. I was surprised to learn from some of my friends that there are Jaibim schools in Hungary for Roma
Yeah.
people. So this is
Yeah.
wonderful that the Ambedkarite message
Yeah, now
is
in
out.
Europe you see particularly in UK and Hungary and France and all small pockets of various countries of Europe. You see the people who migrated from India, they have been enlightening the people there in Europe. And gradually the Europeans also, you see, they are influenced by Baba Sahib Ambedkar in some of the countries in a major way. In the Romas, you see, they are finding, you see, their way out in the philosophy of Baba Sahib Ambedkar. So the Romas, they are the migrants from India only. So the denotified and nomadic tribes, the great indigenous people of India. So they migrated, you see, 2 million back from India. So Romans, they are much more, you see, attracted towards Dr. Ambedkar. So that's a very major development. But I feel America, what do you feel that after the election of Trump, what stand you see American government may take as far as you see the world order is concerned?
Who knows? Trump spoke like a populist and a protectionist, but it seems like he's still figuring out his policies. My own personal view is I hope some of the policies he spoke of during the election were just talk.
Okay.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But one thing I think that's going to be there, he's going to be gone in 4 or 8 years, one or the other, and there's still going to be these kind of habits of discourse. And that's what bugs me as a Deweyan. Is that this election brought out the worst of every side.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the debates where Trump versus Hillary Clinton,
Yeah.
and at the end of that one debate, they asked both candidates, will you accept the outcome of the election? And I said, that's our low point as a democracy. When you have to ask candidates, will you accept the democratic results? That's almost, will you not resort to violence?
Why do you feel that America is still not ready for a woman president?
Who knows? It seemed like they were short of 80,000 votes of having a woman president. From what I know.
Do you feel that this electoral college of US is a just electoral college, whereby only a difference of how many votes difference?
It was like 80,000 in 3 states, from my recollection. I don't know all the polls.
I feel this electoral system is not a representative electoral system.
Yes, I mean the danger, there's always pluses and minuses to each side, right? But the dangers of getting rid of the electoral college is you could have candidates who just focus on big cities and big states and leave out rural communities. So some of the advocates for the electoral college say it protects against demagoguery, which may not have done this time, but also protects smaller states. But it'll be interesting to see if it's changed. A few years ago, when the Democrats were in power with Obama, they changed the filibuster rules to make it harder for a minority group in Congress to stop debate. And that's really worrisome, because that is a rule that no majority will ever want to change back, to harm their own interests. So the danger is you got to watch out when you make these changes in the heat of this moment. What happens 10 years later when that electoral college, you realize it was a good way to do it. So that's my complex way of saying I'm not sold that was our problem. Fake news was part of the problem. We had a lot of propaganda being spread, or just bad arguments, bad information. So this is tough. How do you be a good Democrat in the age of electronic media?
Will the rule of Republican Party affect the African Americans and Hispanics and Asians who are in America?
Some of my colleagues really worry about that, and I see some of the grounds for worrying about that. I hope Trump doesn't focus on that. And the way he talked in the candidacy is he would say some of these things, but then he'd always come back to an economic populist line. So I'm hopeful that will be his focus, which is trying to improve the economy.
Will there be a realignment of NATO and...
I don't think he's serious. Hopefully his advisors
will there be a realignment of America and Russia towards a new world?
There might be. It'll be interesting. He talks sometimes like he wanted to be more friendly with Russia or work with Russia.
Will that create new equations with China and Europe?
I don't know. This is not my specialty. These are too many countries.
What is the thinking of Republican Party today, as far as philosophy is concerned?
They tend to be conservative on social values. Some of them want to involve religion more often in politics. So the U.S. has a lot of religion involved in politics, at least on the Republican side. Some Republicans seem to try to say they're religious because that's what they have to do to get their base. So it's interesting. The two-party system is problematic in many ways.
Is there a scope of multi-party system in the U.S.?
No, I don't think there's any hope for this. The Independent Party did better than usual, but it still didn't get enough percentage.
The philosophy and policy of Democratic Party is more closer to deviant philosophy?
I probably would say yes.
Closer, if not completely on that path.
Yes. I mean, what I think Dewey would not agree with is the way many Democrats act, just like you would in Republican habits. But yes, some of their social policies would probably be closer to what Dewey was advocating in the 30s and 40s.
Okay.
Although Dewey tried to start a third party back then as well, or support a third party candidate.
That's why I'm asking about multi-party democracy in the
Yes. But again, I don't think there's much hope for that. The parties have made it such where they're the only contenders. They're the main ones in the debate.
Okay.
They're the main ones in advertising.
There is third party also contending, no? This time also
Yes, there's an independent.
What's the name of that party?
Independent, I believe, and Green.
Okay.
So there's two different candidates that complexified the vote.
Okay.
Ross Perot was a major one years ago with his own party.
Okay.
But one of the objections is these third parties just take votes from one of the other sides. So for instance, Hillary Clinton might make an argument that the third parties took votes from her, not from Trump.
So today, as far as philosophically is concerned, America is how much far away from Dewey as a nation?
Yes, I think it's probably 40% close to Dewey. It's split. There's some Democrats that go beyond Dewey. There's some Republicans that overlap with Dewey.
Okay.
But if I had to put the majority of it, more Democrats probably aligned with what Dewey was after. Some Republicans, unfortunately, think Dewey was for Marxism. Kind of like Ambedkar had to define himself with Marxism. He was for socialism and not Marxism. So some Republicans tar Dewey with the Marxist badge. So So, but in many ways, Democratic and Republican politics are ignorant of philosophical bases, just like Dewey. They have their own views on things and they detach it from philosophy. You here in India have a lot more. You have deeper roots behind your political positions, for good or for bad.
Yeah. In India, you see there are multicolors actually. There is Hindutva also, and there is, you see, Marxism also, Indian version of Marxism.
Yes.
And there is a version of Gandhiism also.
Yes.
And there is a strong Ambedkarite movement here also in India.
Yes.
So, but as far as America is concerned, it's not very clear that on which path of philosophy it is.
No.
Still not very clear actually.
No. In many universities, philosophy.
Can we say it's only materialism?
It comes close to being only materialism, I fear. I mean, there are a lot of people who go to church in the U.S. Probably more. This is an empirical matter, so when you look at statistics.
So, still this harmony of the reconstruction of mental and material world.
Yes.
It's far away from US.
Yes.
Reconstruction of mental and material world.
Yes, I think there is still a divide. Some people think spirituality and religion plays a big role, and some people say, no, I'm agnostic or atheistic. It's not as spiritual as India. You know, even Ambedkar fighting religions is spiritual in a Buddhistic sense. So yeah, the U.S. politics, religion doesn't often make an appearance, and when it does, I don't think it's very helpful. Do you think religion plays a helpful role in Indian politics?
Yeah, it's very much there.
Yes.
But the religion, the concept of religion of Baba Saheb Ambedkar was very different from the concept of religion of the world.
Yes.
That is what you say, that you see the center of religion must be to establish the right relationship between man and man in his life on earth.
Yes.
So this relationship between man and man, right relationships between man and man in his life or her life and on earth means that all socio-political, economical and cultural and religious aspects have to be redefined on right relationships. Then he said that the center of religion is man and morality, not God or soul.
Yes.
And the object of religion is to reconstruct the world and to make it happen.
Yes, make it a better place for your purposes
Yeah.
and your everyone's purposes.
So this concept of religion of Dr. Ambedkar is totally different from the understood religious concepts of Christianity or Islam or even Buddhism for that matter in the traditional sense.
Yes, that's the key thing. Is in America, I see some Christians that are very ego-focused, and some Christians that look at Christianity as a good way to orient yourself and give value to your fellow humans.
Yeah.
So, you know, say I'm sure Buddhism, there's egoistic Buddhists, and then there's very, like Dr. Ambedkar, very enlightened Buddhists who want to share it with everyone. So, this is, I think, a Deweyan point. How do we get the right mental habits to orient us correctly with community members versus making us opponents? Yes. Well, thank you so much for your time. I don't want to keep you here all night.
I'm very happy to have you here actually. I'd like to just give some of my books to you actually.
Wonderful. I will definitely cite them in my work.
Yeah. वो chronology, intellectual biography और पुनः पैक्ट का बुक निकाल तीनों बुक निकाल इंटेलेक्चुअल बायोग्राफी और chronology और पुनः पैक्ट का बुक और ये छोटा ये भी निकाल लीजिए शायद.
Yes, that would be very helpful, especially the chronology and the biography. These would be good because you know, I'm sure you have a section in there in Colombia, which I can draw. Yes, and the chronology of events, it's tough to figure out all the things you did. So these kind of things are invaluable.
It's necessary.
Yes.
So when you'll be completing your project?
Probably finish writing by May.
May this year?
Yes, and then the slow process of publication. So I bet you it'll be published in 2018.
18.
Yes, the academia has a way of slowing things down and dragging.
Published from which publication?
I'm going to try for English or American public, you know, either Oxford or Cambridge that has distributors over here. So,
okay.
So hopefully you'll be able to see it. Otherwise, I'll give you word on its existence.
It's okay. I heard that. They're very much confirmed about that it will come in Indian.
Yes,
Then you see standard works on Dr. Ambedkar do come here in Indian.
Yes, then you have many people who care about Dr. Ambedkar. Well, thank you so much, sir.
इसको निकालिए. इसका कवर होगा.